Have we just started?
Yes, now we just started.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Book Club, Letter Writers Alliance Book Club.
So in case you don't know what Letter Writers Alliance is, we're a community where we try to get together fellow letter writers and bind them together on an online clubhouse. And then we give you the tools to get offline and write more letters.
That's really what we want. We want you writing letters. We don't care what they're about. We don't care who they're to. We just want you writing more of them.
Right. And so then we have a book club that we read a new book each season, so 4 books a year. And the only rule we have is that it has to involve letters or mail art or
be letter writing related in some fashion.
In some fashion. So Donovan actually I bought the Kindle version, so I have nothing to show, but Donovan bought the real one. So today we're going to talk about my Salinger year. And Donovan and I have a rule that we do not talk about the book.
We try not to talk about the book
before we do our discussion. So in that way we hash everything out today.
Yeah. I mean, because if we talked about it ahead of time, then we would have nothing to talk about right now.
That's true. Yeah.
And we understand today's Mother's Day in the United States. Happy Mother's Day to everyone watching this with your mom.
Yeah.
And moms watching this, grandmoms watching this, etc. Kathy has a funny story to tell you about our guest.
Oh,
that doesn't exist.
We don't have a guest this time. We normally always have a guest on book club. And at the last minute, we had to change the original air date because I had to go to Texas for work stuff and it came out of nowhere. But Donovan was like, let me invite my mom. So she calls her mom. She's like, hi, Mom.
Today.
Yeah, because you know how kids are. What's up? Would you like to be our guest for book club? And she said, I haven't read the book.
She said, I didn't read it.
Yeah. Way to go, Sheila. So
after watching this, this could have been you on this fabulous book club podcast, but you didn't read our book.
No. But it was a pretty thin book, actually. I think it might be the smallest one we've done so far. Has it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought, no, because 84 Charing Cross Road is a very thin volume.
More interesting, though. Lord. Good God.
So, all right. Well, straight off, I guess you.
Well, first, let me say that if you go to letterwriters.org and you go into events, into book club, you'll see a chat window. There's going to be a video of the live video, which you're watching somewhere now. And then below it is a chat window. So if you want to talk to us and ask us questions to talk about now or interact with us, you can do it there. Or you can also on Twitter or Instagram, hashtag L.W.A book club, with any questions or comments that you have, and we'll talk about them today. I didn't like this book. It was all right in places. She writes very nicely.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting book. I feel like it's a fine book. I feel like I'm too old for this book. I'm too old. I have learned the lessons that are being learned in this book, and so I feel like it's sort of lost on me. But I read it very quickly. I read it in like a couple of hours, maybe. So it's not badly written. It's just the journey the author takes it's sort of a coming of age story, how I saw it. It's like learning to be an adult. You're at college. You're having to deal with all these adult things now. And for me, I hit those mile markers far before the author of this book did. And so she just sort of struck me as very whiny and juvenile throughout the whole thing. And also, I haven't read any Salinger stuff, and I don't care. So
I read Salinger in high school, Catcher in the Rye, and I honestly do not remember anything about that book. So I must not have been interested in it. So yeah, it was very odd for me to read a book about an author that I don't know or have read much about.
But clearly speaks to many people.
Yeah.
Like there are people that feel very strongly about this author. But I am just not one of them.
Yeah, I even asked my husband, because my husband's a writer, and I was like, have you read Salinger? Do you like him? And he said, oh, well, I read everything kind of that was required of me in high school, and then I just never really touched it again. So I didn't even have anyone in my life that could ask about how they felt about Salinger. So the only thing I knew about him is that he was a recluse, and now that was just because I think that was what ended up becoming famous about him and during our time. I don't know.
Everyone I would talk to about this that didn't know about it was just like, oh, did he sleep with her? That's a thing. He was a womanizer. I don't even know. I almost think that maybe you're thinking of Hemingway. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But spoiler alert, she doesn't sleep with him. She never even meets the man. She occasionally speaks with him on the telephone.
No, he came into the office.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they shook hands and everything. He came into the office. He talked to her face to face. Yeah, it happened.
Okay. Well, I say it didn't. So if somebody prove us wrong or right, because I'm not reading this book again.
So in terms of the general coming of ageness, whatever, that didn't offend me too much. What did offend me is like, okay, I've dated some idiots and assholes in my time, like for real, and I still never dated someone to the asshole caliber that Don is.
Yeah, he's a right proper jerk. But again, like that felt to me like a stepping stone for her. Like I'm dating this person because I haven't learned not to.
Yeah. And so Adina backs me up and says they met for a hot second. Thank you, Adina.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I mean, God, even if you make a mistake like him, I've never known anyone who's made it for like, first of all, acknowledges it's a mistake. Normally, if you date someone for a year like that, you don't realize that they're a mistake yet, but she acknowledges that he's a mistake. And then she says, but I need to be unhappy right now. So I'll stay dating him because I need to write and I need to be unhappy to write. And I'm like, yo, I can tell you a million ways to make yourself unhappy while you're single. Like you do not need a man to make yourself unhappy.
That's true. I mean, there's a lot of leaps of logic that she takes that I think are a product of her upbringing and a product of like, she just comes from a background that I have no experience with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, she is then presented with these bills and hardships, but she has been taken care of her whole life. And I don't have experience with that. And so I have no sympathy for her.
Yeah.
I have zero sympathy for this woman. I'm just like, you dating a jerk. It's your own damn fault. You're taking a low-paying job. Like, this was your choice. You are making these choices. Yeah. I refuse to feel bad for you.
The low-paying job thing, I don't really feel bad for because I think they mentioned that no one else had a job at that time. So I think it was like kind of like right now.
Sure. Like, you do what you have to do, but I refuse to feel bad for her, like, eating her pricey sandwich.
Oh.
Like, I could tell that she was, like, trying to make us all feel like, oh, woe is me, and I've got all these credit card bills. And everybody's got problems. What makes her special? Like, I don't care.
So she didn't write herself well enough to make you care for her.
She wrote herself fine. I just don't care.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. I have no sympathy for this.
Yeah, I kind of got annoyed with the whole. Hold on, I wrote this down now. Okay, so the whole defenseless woman thing. It was very annoying for me. Like, she constantly wrote about how her college boyfriend, the ex, during this time, like, came and saved her in London when she, like, I don't know. I didn't even remember why she needed saving in London, but she did, and he came and saved her, and I was just like. She's like, and I'm half expecting him to save me now. I'm like, how about you pack up your shit and you leave?
Yeah, it's a terrible apartment. It's like gonna murder you.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then the fact that she let him strong arm her into that freaking apartment and then made her sign the lease. I think I wrote so many expletives in the book at that point where I was just like, why are you doing this? This is the worst thing ever.
Well, because she's dumb and because she hasn't been an adult before. I don't know how she managed to get through grad school without being an adult.
How do you like, oh yeah, let me sign this lease for an apartment that I don't like and it's going to kill me because my boyfriend, I can't. If my boyfriend at the time was like, let's rent this shithole, but by the way, we're putting it under your name only, I wouldn't be like, sure, buddy, let's do this. This means you love me, right?
Well, there's a lot of choices that she makes that aren't the choices we would make, which I think is my entire problem with the book.
Right.
Yeah. I felt sympathy for her once, and that was when she went home and her father was like, here are all your credit card bills. And like, I think that's fair. Like, sure, they are her credit card bills, but she presents it as she did not know that those would be given to her.
Yeah.
And
I don't think she did know.
And I don't think she did either. And I think that is a failure on her parents' part.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, that was a bullshit move on their behalf, and I felt real bad for her at that moment.
Well, Adina in the chat also said that was when she was very sympathetic for her.
Yeah.
So you guys apparently said it right at the same time. But, yeah, actually, I didn't even care about the bills. I was like, well, you fucked up kind of shit on that. What really pissed me off was, oh, and by the way, I'm so sorry I'm cursing this so much on this book club. But this character riles me up. So, is when the dad was like, yeah, I took out these student loans. I forged your signature. If my parents did that to me, I would just
punch them. Cool, they're invalid.
Yeah, well, I would like, no way, man. No way. If you're going to take out loans, like, you could have told me 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
because you had the plan for that.
Yeah, here's the reason she's not an adult yet. Her parents haven't let her be an adult.
Yeah.
She hasn't had these conversations with them about interest rates and student loans and what your responsibilities are.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was just like, I cannot believe that this guy just pulled this on her, because how is she supposed to plan for anything?
In case you're lost, there's a section in the book where she goes home and her parents are like, oh, cool, you have a job now. Here's your bill here are the credit cards that I have in your name.
And we told you've
been using throughout your college years.
Yeah.
But these are now your responsibility. Surprise.
And it's funny because she when I was in college, I also had an emergency credit card, and I think I used it once when I was
for an emergency.
Yeah, I ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere and I needed to buy gas for a car. So I'm not sure if they were for emergency. I'm not sure if she even racked up that much, but whatever.
No, they weren't. They were things. She said they were for things like, oh, you should come home. Oh, she would buy a plane ticket to go home.
Right. Okay, I see.
I too had a credit card during college. I applied for that credit card. I paid for that credit card. It was my credit card.
Yeah.
I have never had a parent credit card.
Oh no, that credit card that I had for emergencies was mine as well, but like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so let me see. I also have so I talked about Don's an asshole.
What'd you like about the book?
So there was a few things that did speak to me, like where I was like, oh yeah, I kind of get that whole thing. Like everyone, like the one girl who's like the messed up friend or whatever on drugs and stuff. I was like, everyone has an F up friend. Okay, I get that. That's interesting, but not. I don't know.
Didn't even feel like her friend though.
No, it wasn't her friend, but I was just like, oh, so she's following this formula. Cool.
Like she's severely isolated throughout this entire book. Like her only true connections in this book are through these other people's letters that aren't even to her.
Right. Yeah.
Which is probably the whole entire focus of the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called My Salinger Year.
Right. I did like how the parts of the aspects of the letters and how they played in her life were interesting, which I know we're going to get more in depth into later on. There was one point, so my Kindle says it was page 64, but who knows, where her friend was like her friend who she's growing distant from. I can't remember her name, Jenny or something like that.
Jenny.
Oh, wow. Look at my memory.
Good job.
Was like, oh yeah, we got email. We're using it all the time, blah, blah, blah. And, she's like, but no one talks to each other anymore. And I thought that was really interesting. And actually one of the questions I put up.
Here's the thing. Hey, Jennifer, how close are we to being done on the Mexican immigration chapter? She emails me from across the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this happens in everyone's life. It's like, why are you texting me? You're in the bedroom.
Yeah. You're like across the house from me or whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know. It's interesting to me because my work we just started using Slack, which is like, basically a chat system, in RSC. And, it's good for us because if someone's really stuck down like a database hole or coding hole, because I work with websites and stuff, then they can keep doing their work. And then when they realize that they got a ping, they can go to it and check it out instead of someone coming into your desk and being like, hey, what's up with this thing? And you're like, I was in the middle of writing this string. Yeah. So I kind of get that. But at the same time, I understand what she's saying. It's like, wow, we've lost that kind of connection. And I think there's this push-pull between the technological connection and the analog connection. So then one of the questions that I have is that the book takes place right at the cusp of the digital age. I can keep reading it in that voice.
That's your question.
Yeah. How do you think this story would change if it took place a few years earlier when the internet was more prevalent and email was inescapable?
A few years later?
Yeah, because it was seriously like, I think a couple more.
It's like 95, right?
Yeah, I was like 93 or something. So
how do I think it would change? It would be less cool of a book because I think my favorite part of the book was how antiquated their office was.
Yeah.
Was the fact that they didn't have computers and that she had to use a dictaphone. Yeah, well, I'm wondering, so does that mean that the letters to Salinger would have actually been email instead? Well, they wouldn't. No, because I would say no. They would still have been letters because it's so easy to just delete an email. Like they talk about it. They talk about the legal things they have to do. Like they have to deal with these letters. Like you don't have to deal with email. Yeah. And how they have to store them and things like that. And I mean, to this day, like I've talked about it on the L.W.A blog about if you have an author that you like, you may write to them, care of their publisher. And their publisher will forward those letters if that author has agreed to allow those letters to be forwarded. Clearly, Salinger did not allow those letters to be forwarded. That was one of his things. But I've written to authors like that. It's fun. It takes a long time. You must be patient. It takes like months. To get a response, you mean? Yeah. If you're going to get a response. Well, here's the other thing. Okay, so then let's get into her responding to the letters. So was she? I'm still cloudy on this. Is she supposed to respond to them? She was supposed to respond to them with a form letter that's like, "Dear, we have destroyed your letter. You suck, go away. We can't forward your letter on because this is Salinger's wishes that this does not occur." Right, whatever. It's actually, I can't remember how the form letter is. She takes it upon herself to add stuff. She does the form letter and word from word for a little bit, and then she starts adding stuff, and then she just throws away the form letter and starts responding personally. And I don't remember how the form letter sounded, but it was kind of cold. And honestly, after reading the excerpts of those letters that she was getting, if I would receive that form letter, I would feel terrible. I'd rather want no response than a form letter response. So I think that's why she started responding to them in a personal way. But some of them hated it. But I don't understand that, because if you write to an author, care of the publisher, do you seriously expect that no one else is going to read that except for the author? If I'm writing a letter to a celebrity and author, I'm expecting that at least 12 people are going to see that. A lot of the people she was responding to were teenagers. Well, the teenager flipped out, but then there was someone else who flipped out too, or something like that. Yeah, but it did seem like they were already special individuals. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was weird for sure. And I'm not sure how my feelings are on that. I think I would have rather not replied with any form letter. And if I write to a celebrity, I normally, or whatever author, whatever, I wouldn't expect a response back. Now I haven't done it yet, so I don't know how it would feel. If I did, I've definitely been like, I should write this person because they're cool or whatever, but I just haven't done it. I did it much more as a younger person.
Yeah.
That was unaware of the work that letters can be. That was just, I mean, I started writing authors when I was like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And I would just, just ask for things and just not being aware. And I still, to this day, I am both upset and embarrassed about this letter that I sent to this author. Her name's Robin McKinley. She writes really great books. But I was like, I don't know, I was in like 3rd grade and we didn't have a lot of her books at the library. So I asked for a copy of a book and she was just like, books cost money. And also I'm a lady because Robin McKinley, I figured it was a dude. And I desperately wanted to be like, my name's Donovan. I understand. That you get a lot of mail. I really get it. But like, I am still upset with that, like to this day.
Oh.
Right? Yeah,
I would be too. Yeah, if I was in that position, so I get that.
Yeah.
So a member, Cheryl, on the Goodreads community forum that we have for our club, she says, "I'm curious about the reactions to Joanna writing her own responses to some of Salinger's fans instead of sending the agency's standard reply. I found it disturbing. I think it's because it felt like she crossed the line, intruding in a personal and potentially unwelcome way into someone else's correspondence." So I don't know how I would have felt if, I got one of Joanna's responses, honestly. I mean, how would you have felt if you were that teenager? Like, I can't remember that response that she did specifically, but.
Yeah, no, I feel like I felt like I didn't feel it was an invalid response.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could have gone either way. Like it.
Yeah, like I think I probably would have expected something between the teenager's response and the veteran's response. Like the veteran was like, "Oh, your last name, I served with someone with that last name, blah blah blah." Like he was like, "Oh, I understand that he doesn't want the." Yeah.
I think that's probably the majority response.
Yeah. Would have been something like that.
Yeah, but this is a book. She's not going to give us the majority response. She's going to give us the standouts.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I would have felt if I got a personal response to it. I mean, as long as the person's like, "Hey, like basically what she did, like, hey, she, they don't take the letters. Here you go." I think I would have
take letters, but I think he would say blah blah blah.
Right, and like, well, I don't know if I even would have wanted that, but I would have preferred that over whatever the crap form was. Like, I mean, really, I would have wanted no response than some crap form. Like, because if you get no response, you're like, well, they probably never got it. But if you get the form, it's like, no, seriously, he really didn't get it. I would be really upset. Like, I don't want confirmation that the author did not get it.
So you are a person that enjoys, I would say, secrets to never be revealed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
If they're bad ones, sure. The other thing that's interesting, and I think kind of goes on to Cheryl's comment, is that maybe she doesn't have a respect of the privacy of letters, because she did look at Don's letter that he was writing to his side hustle lady.
Yeah, I didn't draw that connection.
I mean, like, I don't know. I can't remember.
I think it's an interesting connection. I just didn't make it.
I can't remember if it was out in the open, I think. So if there's a letter out in the open, I think that's fair game. You can look at it. But if it was like under stuff, I probably wouldn't have looked at it.
Trying to think if I would have or not. If it's out on a table, I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
If it's folded up in an envelope, I'm not gonna read it.
Oh no, I can't remember if it was an envelope actually. But
I'm not opening something.
Right. That and what was weird though,
like, I totally, like, Dylan's writing an email. I'd be like, what's she doing? What's writing?
I'm just surprised she never said anything. Like, she fell asleep or something afterwards, and then he came home from wherever the heck he was, and then she didn't say anything, and I was just like,
she's terrible.
Oh God. I mean, she says something later in a fight or something, which is the worst time to say stuff like that. But she said it earlier. Gosh darn. That was really annoying to me. So, oh, and then something that I thought was really weird was on page 69, the guy that helps her with this electric, that coworker, he's like, oh yeah, here's these letters. You can or cannot look at them. It's no big deal. And then he says they're just fans. They're not important or something. And I was like, I think they're the most important part of this whole thing.
No, not in the book publishing industry, I don't think.
But they're the ones who are buying the freaking books. Like, they're important.
But at that point, I think in his career, like, it didn't matter. Like, think about how they're reacting to, like, the possibility that Salinger would put something else out.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those names. It's like Stephen King. Like, it doesn't matter if you piss off this one dude that wrote a letter. Like, there's millions of others that will pick it up.
I don't know. I guess that upsets me a little bit. It's just like,
it's terrible.
Fans. It's no big deal.
It's definitely a horrible attitude, but I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was torn on it. It's like, okay, so it doesn't matter, I guess, because the author's not going to get them and they're just getting a forum response. I get that. But at the same time, there's reciprocity there.
No,
like,
because her main job is, like, typing contracts and shit.
Oh, okay.
So, like, that, I think, is the context of his comment.
Oh,
it's like, this isn't business.
Yeah.
This isn't your job.
Right. Okay, if you can get to them, then you can get to them. The other thing, okay, so going back to the dad and the loans, I don't know, the loans pissed me off more than the credit cards, honestly, because it's like she is coming out of nowhere. I don't know if this is trying to parallel them too much, but the dad taking out the loans and not telling her about it do you think there's a parallel there with her responding to Salinger's letters and being like, this is how I think he'll think? Like, it's representing someone without them knowing it or acknowledging it. No? Then that's too much of a jump, I guess. I don't know.
Because a loan to me is so impersonal, but it's just a hard apples to oranges thing.
That's not impersonal to me, because now I gotta freaking pay all this crap and I can't do stuff because you forged my freaking signature. That upset me. It's like, I'm on a budget. I'm on a fixed income, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I cry when I buy a $7 sandwich. So, I don't know. I did like the veteran's letter, though. I was like, oh my God, this is like the one moment in the entire book where it's like, hey, this is what letters can actually do.
Right.
It took, I don't know how freaking long to get there. Lord.
I like how mad this book makes you. I feel like this book makes you as mad as the last book made me. I don't have any deep feelings for this book because it, to me, presented no deep feelings.
Yeah.
It was just a very surface book for me.
I don't know. It kind of got to me under my skin because it's just like, oh, I'm this lady and this man's going to define me and just going to let my dad screw
he's a really
over.
shitty writer, so it's going to be a terrible definition.
Oh, God. It's nothing worse than someone who's all brooding and thinks that they're excellent and then, like, are not.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's just terrible. The worst. Yeah. Anywho, let me see. I have a couple more questions here on the... Oh, so then another one question is, like, why do you think she started sending the personal responses versus the
because she had no other forms of personal connection in her life. She was drifted apart from everyone. She has no friends.
Mm-hmm.
She has a horrible boyfriend, and her family she's not estranged from her family, but she's just not.
Yeah.
She wants to make it on her own.
Yeah.
And she has no one in this book besides herself in these letters.
Yeah.
So that's why I think she does it.
I thought that maybe she did it because she just couldn't handle sending a forum response because she just reacted poorly to that forum response. But yeah, that probably is a better reason.
Well, I'm saying the reason she couldn't handle the forum response is because she was being given the forum response.
Right.
In her life.
Yeah. In her life.
Her life was like, we're sorry, Jana. We We don't want to associate with you right now.
Right.
Try again later.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so I guess in general, though, I'm interested to hear from our members, like, have you ever written to, an author or celebrity? And if so, like, what kind of response were you expecting? Were you expecting any response? Were you expecting like some form? Were you expecting a personal response from the author or the secretary? I think that if I expect any response, I probably, depending on how famous the person is, I probably would expect it from their, administrative assistant.
I'm always expecting a personal response.
Really?
Yeah.
And then what's your running on that?
I've always gotten one.
Really?
But I would say I haven't written to celebrities. I've only written to authors.
Okay.
So.
And then have you written to the author more than once?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then have you done it ever through email?
Mm-mm.
Always through letters?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why you're getting the response.
Well, and also, like I said, I haven't done it in a very long time. I think the last one I sent was in high school.
And who was it to?
Neil Gaiman. He's a very nice man. He writes back on postcards. Oh. At least he did.
Yeah, one of my coworkers. Yeah, go ahead.
Ed, just as an aside, I always wanted to write him back because he uses full postage on his postcards, and I'd be like, dude, you just use postcard stamps and you'll save so much money. But I never did.
Oh, he lives in the States now?
He's always lived. I mean, he's lived in the States for many years.
Oh, yeah. One of my coworkers, she just recently, it was Hugh Hefner's 90th birthday, and she just recently wrote to him for his 90th. Like, I helped her put together a card and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, I don't know how long ago. It's been a couple weeks now. I was like, hey, have you gotten a response yet? She's like, oh, I'm not expecting a response.
Yeah.
And she's like, I did this for him so he can appreciate it, and I'm not expecting anything. I was like, oh. And I was like, but you put all this work into it. I put all this work into it too. So
I can guarantee you it went in the scrapbook.
Oh yeah, that's right. You told me that. Hugh Hefner is a big scrapbooking guy.
He has the Guinness World Record for scrapbooking. Hugh Hefner is the world's largest scrapbooker. Go figure.
Yeah. That's all my notes, man. I don't know. I just really wanted to shake Joanna like all the time. I think at one point I actually physically threw my Kindle across the room.
Wow.
Because I was really
That's upset. An electronic device.
It was to a soft corner of the house.
Yeah. No, it really never affected me that much. I just it would have been a much more important and interesting book for me to read when I was 15.
I don't know if I would have reacted like, oh my God, this is life-changing.
Like I would have identified more with the feelings that she had. But I feel like I am so much more emotionally mature than the person in this book that I just could not even begin that. Like I'm sure she's gotten there, but like she seems like there's an afterword. She seems like a perfectly adjusted individual with a nice family life, and like this was obviously very life-changing for her. She wrote a book about it.
Right.
It was, I read it. It wasn't a bad read, but I don't think I am the
target
audience for this book.
Do you think you would have cared more if you actually read any Salinger?
Maybe.
There was one point where she actually started talking about a book of something that I read before, and I felt
it
really weird about it.
Beverly Cleary or somebody shows up at some point, and it's like, yes, that person. I'm like, let's talk about her.
Judy Blume?
Maybe.
It was Judy Blume.
Yeah.
And so when she actually starts talking about Judy Blume, I was like, oh, this is how it feels when someone's talking about an author that you actually know. So I wonder how it would felt if I actually knew this author the whole time.
Probably would have been a much more interesting book, actually, now that you mention it.
Yeah.
If these had been letters to Judy Blume, I would have been totally into it.
Also, wait, hold on. Did she ever actually publish something for adults? Did that ever? She did? It happened? Oh, okay. Okay.
So,
all right.
I don't know.
I wasn't sure. Yeah. Okay. So, and then in general, so we always try to, talk about the letter part of the book. So then how do you feel, letters played a role in this book? Like, what do you think they did for this book or in this book?
They created the entire premise for the book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the hook of the book. Otherwise, it's just, how will I get by on my low-paying job in New York book.
I was actually kind of surprised that they introduced the letters as late as they did in the book. Like, I can't remember how far it took, but it was a while. She had the job already, I think, when the story
she
opened.
just starts the job, immediately. I mean, and I really actually liked that part about how there's like a giant blizzard and it shut the entire city down.
Oh my God.
But she shows up to work anyway.
Because that's happened to me. Like, it actually happened to me. I didn't get the email from my work saying that they shut down like 5 years ago for some massive blizzard. And the buses were actually still running. So I wasn't as bad as her. But yeah, the blizzard was so bad. Donovan's heard the story so many times. The blizzard was so bad that the bus driver had to actually like plow his way through snow because nothing had been cleared. And there was like maybe 13 people on this bus. And when he got to the bus stop, everyone clapped. Because it was so harrowing. Like, it was so bad. Oh God. Yeah.
You weren't even supposed to be there.
I wasn't even supposed to be there. It's like the Clerks movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anywho, I don't know. The way that I saw the letters acting was kind of like how, the therapist role in Sopranos works, where you can actually get the internal dialogue from her in a way that it was like, I'm talking about this even though it's about me, but it's not about me because I'm talking about these people instead. Like, it was the way for her to, like, for us as readers to realize, like, figure out what was making her go and tick and stuff. So
I just thought as a gimmick, as something quirky, because this whole office that she works in is quirky because they don't use computers.
Yeah. God, I would have loved that Selectric that she was on. Like, wow.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
like, I think also I was like, I can do this job. I can do this job way better than she's doing this job.
Yeah.
I know how to run a dictaphone.
You know how to run a dictaphone?
Yeah, it's just with pets. One of the offices I worked in, at some point, I had to do transcription.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it was with a dictaphone?
Mm-hmm.
All right, then. I've never used one. I thought for a second, I've seen the dictaphones on older movies, but I've never seen the pedal part of it work.
It's just a convenient way because you're having to type.
Yeah.
So it's a convenient way to start and stop because you're listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I found it interesting that she said that it felt very intimate to be listening to the dictaphone and like just
Mm-hmm. I like transcription.
Yeah.
It's becomes very, because you're not even paying attention to the words, you just do it.
I hate transcription. I take forever to do it. Like, I have to do it for user testing and stuff at work, and it's just like, I'm like, oh God, it takes me like forever to do it. If we're going to do full transcription of interviews. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know. That's basically my feelings about it. It was a really short book. The next one that we're reading is 400 pages. Okay. So a little bit longer than this one. So,
What is it?
The next book. Okay. The next book is The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend. And the synopsis is, Broken Wheel, Iowa has never seen anyone like Sarah, who traveled all the way from Sweden just to meet her pen pal, Amy.
Cool.
When she arrives, however, she finds that Amy's funeral has just ended.
What?
Yeah.
That sucks. Why are we reading this terrible book? It's terrible.
Luckily, the townspeople are happy to look after their bewildered tourists, even if they don't understand her particular need for books. Marooned in a farm town that's almost beyond repair, Sarah starts a bookstore in honor of her friend's memory.
She's just going to live there now?
I don't know. That's the synopsis. makes it, I guess, sound like it
Okay.
is.
All
Yeah.
right.
I don't know.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we'll read it and find out, I suppose.
Yeah. So, yes, she says she wants to share with the citizens of Broken Wheel. So, yeah, our next one is the readers of Broken Wheel recommend.
And who's it by?
I'm going to not pronounce this right. Katerina Bivald.
Okay.
So, and it's on the Goodreads. It's on our Goodreads group. And yeah, and I don't know if we have a date for it yet.
No, but when around will it be? Like July-ish, June-ish, August-ish?
August-ish, I think.
August-ish.
Yeah, August-ish.
It's a word. It's perfectly cromulent word.
Totally. I mean, yeah, I can tell you when our next live event is, though.
Our next live event
is
going to be,
I don't remember.
It's a letter writing social.
Yeah, a virtual letter writing social. And
I believe it's in June.
If you but I can't remember what the number date is. Let me see.
I think it's the 12th.
I don't think so.
I think it's the 12th. I think it's June 12th. Do I get a cookie if I'm right?
You get a cookie. It's June 12th. Sunday, June 12th, we're having a virtual letter social. And then that's just going to be when we get together and we write letters. So
just hang out.
It's either us being silent and you can hear us scribbling our letters, or it's going to be us talking about things that we like about letters. And we also have the chat window as well. And, we have the hashtag L.W.A social. So you can show us your layout or whatever cards you're writing.
There's also a new hashtag, writing desks of L.W.A to show us where you write.
Is that how new is that? Because I didn't even know that existed.
It's pretty new. I put up a blog post about it, Kathy. But currently the only person with desks in it is me.
Okay, so what's that hashtag again so people can add to it?
Writing desks, plural of L.W.A.
Okay, that's really long. So then you can see us online again at the virtual social, or you can see us in August-ish for the next one, the
next book club.
Yeah, for the next book club. We'll put the date up on our website, letterwriters.org. It's also on our Twitter where we're _LWA. And Donovan and I have individual Instagram accounts. She's Dov V and I'm 16 Sparrows.
DOVBEE. And that's 16SPARROWS.
Double T, double R.
That's how you spell sparrows.
You're a nerd. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us again for book club. I know it's been a really long time.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day. It's been a really long time since we had any online events, but we're going to get right back into the groove. We were just busy traveling and building a new website.
And updating our website.
Yeah.
Yes. Congratulations, Kathy, on the
Thank you. So now the website allows you to get a preview of all the member items before you become a member. So if you want to check out what members have access to, you can. It's just that when you click to try to buy a members only item, that's when it's like, dude, you need a password, become a member.
You have to be a member.
Yeah. So so hopefully you guys like the new website. It's searchable and whatnot. So yeah, and we have a way better checkout system now because our old one was not very good. So, all right. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you guys have a really good Sunday or Monday, if that's what time zone.
Whatever day you're watching.
Yeah, whatever day you're watching this.
Write more letters.
Write more letters. See you next time. Bye, guys.